we had a very solid base. We've been in this church for 25 years. We've raised 6 kids here. Their first field trip was probably to this church at 2 weeks old. And, you know, the teaching, the youth group leaders have been phenomenal here, the different pastors that we've had. And we had a very solid base, and that was part of my checklist as a parent and as a Christian mom, which is something that was never modeled for me. You know, fast forward to when my 2 kids came out and the mental health issue came up, there wasn't any manual. I didn't know what I was doing. I blindly just walked into it and had people praying and talking to me, and I didn't even know what that looks like, to love unconditionally in spite of what others are doing. It was just a dark time, and I really questioned whether or not God was really noticing me and noticing my family and the stuff we were going through. I personally went through a grief process of losing, I would say grieving the loss of what I thought our life would look like and what my children's life would look like. So I went through a grief process of anger, denial, bargaining, all the things you go through, the stages of grief. And that went on for 2 years. I feel like I was angry at God for 2 years. When I finally, fortunately, having a very steady, solid husband who kept grounding me, I being the more emotional person, was able to stay on track and know that God did notice me. He does love me. These promises He has are for me and not for everyone else. They're for all of us. And that sustained me, along with the body of Christ, praying and loving us and not judging us as parents.
I remember Lynn's commitment to homeschooling. It was something that we had hardly ever talked about. I thought it was enough having 6 kids alone, having her try to have them all at home. And yet I saw her lead the kids through the Word and through the subjects, trying to keep some kind of order and discipline with 6 kids that are in their jammies learning. I mean, it was really a daunting task, and yet she continued on. And I think the most important thing is that they just had a solid sense of the family unit. At the same time, there were challenges, and so we tried different things with the schooling, and we had a homeschool co-op. There was a lot of new resources coming up for people that were homeschooling. So I would say it was a stable, happy time, but with a lot going on. And then as the kids went to school, there was the challenge of them sometimes in Christian school, but then eventually we had to switch over to public school. And in some cases, our kids would stand for Christ. In some cases, it was just a lot of difficulty with the peer pressure. So we began to see cracks in what we were hoping was a solid Christian foundation. They were all baptized here, and they all had been on youth mission trips and everything, but there wasn't. It was clear that it wasn't entirely translating, and I guess I didn't know what to expect, and Lynn didn't either, in terms of how do we gauge what's supposed to be happening. But clearly, there was more going on under the surface. And that's what eventually came out when, as she said 5 years ago, a lot started coming out. So.
And I think it's interesting to note that the prayer of Jabez has come up a few times, I think, during the whole Job study. And, Jabez says to bless me, bless me, bless me, and enlarge my territory. And I think of the fact that because I grew up with a brother who, when I was 15 and he was 16, had a schizophrenic break, and they whisked him away for 17 years. I didn't see him again. So the trauma of seeing another child or a child of mine have that kind of break brought back all memories of maybe losing a child. But in reality, God sustained our child, and we are now part of the National Alliance on Mental Illness Board for Portage County, so it has enlarged our territory. We have an investment in people with mental health issues now, where we may not have been engaged in that earlier. And we're hoping the same thing with the same-sex attraction, that will open up an avenue for us to be more invested, because I'm sure there's people within the body that struggle or have loved ones that struggle and don't know what to do with it. So.